Discussing a very bizarre case, if you will, kind of like a very strange case that happened in university, actually, a Jewish university. Never mind the name of the place, where there was a student that had his lunch stolen from him a few times. And he started getting upset. You know, he became a laughing stock of everybody. All the students knew that every day when he came to look for his lunch wasn't there. He started getting upset. You know, every day he's going hungry, no lunch after a few hours already in school, and he's finding himself with nothing to eat. So he decided to take the law into his own hands. He said, I'm going to put a stop to this. If somebody is eating my lunch every day, he's really going to enjoy it this time. So he did something very bizarre, very awkward, and he took rat poison. Yes, that was rat poison. And he spread it on the food. Whatever it was a sandwich. He put it in the food itself, and he said, now we're really gonna find out who's the one that stole the sandwich, who stole my lunch every day. And the next day when he came to school, he put the sandwich in his usual place, and like every day the sandwich was gone. A few hours later, they found out who the thief was, because they found him lying down on the floor, completely unconscious, and was rushed to the hospital and was saved in a miracle. This was a story that actually happened. So we're gonna more analyze whether it was morally right or morally wrong. This is given to another discussion, but not within the frame of this class. We're going to be speaking more about the Halachik aspect of this whole bizarre episode, whether he was allowed to do so, or whether he's liable for any damages, etc., etc., or maybe he was just allowed. Listen, the guy was taking his lunch every day. That deserves rat poison, doesn't it? Let's see. So we find the Gemara here. The Gemara says like this. In Gemara Baba Kama, I'll quote, and this is a quote straight from the Gemara. Kerem Revai היו מציינים אותו בגזוזות אדמה. סימנה, כי אדמה, מה אדמה איקה נעה מיני, אף נמי כי מפקר שרי ליתנהו מיני. So what is this Gemara saying? Keri Ravai was the fruits of the fourth year. As we know, according to Halacha, one is not allowed to benefit any kind of pleasure from fruits during the first 3 years. On the fourth year, this is already called Neta Revai, Kerem Revai. A person has to bring the fruits that grew on the fourth year. He has to bring them up to the Bet HaMikdash, and he has to eat them within the walls of Yerushalayim. Yeah, so in order that the farmers, whoever was growing these fruits, not to make a mistake between the fruits, they would tie something around the trees to remind them that this is a forbidden tree, that this is a permissible tree. It's Kerem Revai, it's the fruits of the fourth year, to remind them that these fruits were only allowed to be eaten within the walls of Yerushalayim. Yeah, and then they would put a sign. The sign itself was made from like, it was used like something like a socket, like a sock, and they would fill it up with earth. And then the Gemara says, why with earth? So the Gemara answers, Ma'adama yikana, just like the earth, one is allowed to have pleasure from it after he plows it, after he seeds it, after he picks up the crops. So too, so too, the fruits of the fourth year are only allowed to be eaten only after a special preparation and brought up to the to Yerushalayim. So the Gemara continues over there and says, it's a The Gemara says, "V'shel orla becharasit." סימנה כחרסית. מה חרסית שאין הנאה? מינה אף היי דלת בהנאה מינה. So he says the trees or the plants that were still orlas, in other words still fruits that were within the third year of plantation, they would also put a sign around them to remind them that they were not allowed to eat from these fruits because they were fruits from the third year. Those fruits were placed a sign. There was a sign placed on them with charsit. Charsit is kind of the earth, or the kind of the sand that they used to use to make clay. So the Gemara says, why is it that they used to use clay? He says, just like clay, there's no pleasure from it, there's no anah from it, so too, these fruits, one is not allowed to have any pleasure from them until the passing of the third year, beginning of the fourth. Continues the Gemara, Veshel gvarot besid. סימנה דחיברה כעצמות וממחה ושופר כי אחד דניחה ורדפי. And how would they, the Gemara kind of speaks about something else, they would also make a sign on the floor perhaps, or on the roads, with like white chalk. Where would they do that? On the cemetery. Wherever would a person, like as we know, back in those days, it wasn't necessarily a public cemetery. Anybody who had a field, anybody that had a piece of land, he would take his father, whoever is his mother, his close ones, and he would bury them in the back. But then, as we know, that there's a tuma, there's an impurity that is caused by this caver, and therefore a person had to put a sign. Yeah, he had to put a sign that would allow people, or would show people, to make sure that not to step over the kever and to walk around it, that there shouldn't be any tuma, especially if we have kohanim running around. We want to make sure, and this sign would be done with white chalk that they would seed. It was like a kind of like a plaster that they would mix together with water that would give it that extra shine that would enable people to stay away from that area. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, B'ameh dvarim emurim. In which cases this is all said? In other words, in which cases do we say that one has to put has to put up a sign and to make sure that nobody comes and gets it, right? Nobody, whether it's the netaravai, or whether it's the orla, or whether it's the bet gvarot. When is this all said that you have to prevent people from transgressing a isur of eating a orla, or a isur of eating a kerem ravai outside of Yerushalayim? This is said on the 7th year, Bashvit. The hefker ninhu, since they are all hefker, they all have a din of hefker. אבל בשאר שני שבוע עליתהו לרשע וימות. Rabban Shimon says, when is it that one has to put up a sign to prevent somebody from taking these fruits? Is only on the 7th year. On the 7th year, all the crops are considered hefker. And since they're considered hefker, anyone could come and take. So one, he wants to be a nice guy, he has to follow halacha, he has to make sure that nobody comes and eats from these forbidden fruit. Whether it's a kerem revai, which is not allowed to be eaten outside of Yerushalayim, or whether it's ola, or whether it is walking on Bet HaKvarot. But this is all said on the 7th year, when everybody's allowed to eat. But on the rest of the years, what is this person doing in my field? I should put up a sign that he shouldn't eat from it. He's a Rasha. What is he doing in my field from the first place? And eating. He's forbidden to be in the field. He's forbidden to just walk in, barge in, and eat any fruits he wants. And therefore, says Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Aliteu la'rasha ve'yamut. Give it to the evil, to the wicked. Ve'yamut, and he shall die. It's a very sharp lashon, right? And therefore, one is not, when it's to prevent somebody to transgressing a sin, fine, he doesn't know. Everything is permissible. It's Shvit. When it's Shvit, when everything is permissible, one is going to go and walk into the field and eat whatever it is. And he's eating kerem ravai, neter ravai, he's eating orla, he's all. So one has to make sure that another Jew does not transgress. But if this Jew is a thief, he's a ganav,